Welcome to Encounter Wargaming. Today we continue our look at the metaphysical concepts behind 40k lore. Last episode we looked at demons and what makes them tick. Today we're going to look at another type of demon which is quite different than all the rest. The Demon Princes. As always, I'm Jay and this is Warhammer 40k Metaphysics 101. Last episode we explored the concept of demons. In that episode I told you that we would be exploring the concept of gods in the next episode, but a few of you pointed out, however, that I didn't mention a certain type of demon that is an integral part of both Warhammer and 40k fluff. That is, the Demon Princes of Chaos. The gods of chaos have millions, if not billions, of mortal followers. Amongst these followers, quite often, champions emerge from the crowd. They are those that rise above the rest in order to gain the favor of their patron deity. When a champion of chaos proves themselves worthy of their patron god's attention, they are usually gifted with boons that enhance their abilities, or the gods gift these champions with superhuman abilities in order to make them powerful leaders amongst the followers of chaos. The gods have many gifts that they can bestow upon their followers, but none are sought after as much as the gift of apotheosis. Apotheosis is the term used to refer to a mortal ascending to demonhood. This is usually the ultimate goal of a chaos champion. It allows them to shed their mortal existence and become a powerful immortal fueled by the power of chaos itself. Last episode we talked about demons existing as an extension of their god's power. They are created from the power of their god and exist purely at the whim of their patron god. To put it simply, they only exist because their god allows them to, and their god can reabsorb them at any point. Therefore, they are simply extensions of a god's personality, and even though demons can think for themselves, sort of, so to speak, they are not their own independent personality. Demon princes maintain much of their original personality that they had in their mortal life, as they are usually humans or other sentient beings that get elevated to demonhood by being gifted some of their patron god's power. So rather than being created from a god's power, they are instead enhanced by it. This is what I referred to a second ago as apotheosis. Instead of a demon being created to do a god's bidding, demon princes have already done their god's bidding and are given the ascension to demonhood as a reward. There have been many instances throughout 40k and Warhammer lore of mortals ascending to demonhood through apotheosis. In order to explore this concept and understand the details of the matter a little more, it's probably easier for me to explore a few instances of this happening, and then we can go from there. So let's talk about famous demon princes. Be'lakor, the first damned. We can't begin a discussion on demon princes and not start with Be'lakor, the first damned. He was given that moniker because he literally is the first demon prince. Before him, there were no demon princes, just the basic demons and greater demons we talked about in last episode. Be'lakor is an exceptional case when it comes to Chaos champions gaining apotheosis. I say this because Be'lakor did not achieve demonhood by becoming a favored champion of one patron deity. Instead, he was gifted his immortality through the power of Chaos Undivided. That is to say, the power of all the Chaos gods combined. Be'lakor used the constant power struggle between the Chaos gods to his advantage. He gained the favor of each god individually, yet never really swearing allegiance to any one in particular. We know next to nothing about Be'lakor's mortal life prior to apotheosis, but we do know that he manipulated the gods by causing them to argue over him like children would argue over a favored toy. Be'lakor thought, at least, that he was manipulating them against one another while simultaneously reaping the benefits of this quarrel. In actuality, it was the gods that realized they need not fight over him, but instead combine their powers to elevate him to demonhood and use him as a pawn to help perpetuate the great game in the mortal universe. As much as Be'lakor was a free individual that craved immortality and godhood, he was just a doll to the gods that would be used by all of them to subjugate mortal races to worship chaos as a whole. Surely all the gods can benefit from such an arrangement. And benefit they did. Be'lakor is nearly as old as time itself. He has traveled across the galaxy during his long life. Every time Be'lakor encountered a world with a primitive sentient race, he would subjugate said race and have them worship him as a god. Many relics have been found throughout the galaxy that hint at Be'lakor being involved, most of which are statues and temples in his honor. These have been found throughout the galaxy, showing that he has been around for a very long time and has influenced countless cultures across the galaxy. Nearly every time leaving dead worlds in his wake. Each time finding a new culture to enslave, until they tear themselves apart and he moves on to the next world inhabited by another sentient culture just to do it all over again. Be'lakor's ultimate goal is, of course, to become a god himself. Little does he know that as free as he thinks he is in fact a pawn in the endless game that the dark gods play, and everything he thinks he's doing to give himself power is at the same time lending power to all the gods and the power of chaos as a whole. However, the gods still find him very difficult to control, since he chooses which one to favor at any given time, turning to whatever dark power will benefit him the most at the moment. Since Be'lakor was the first of his kind, the gods realized that in order for demon princes to be reliable servants, they must only give the boon of apotheosis to those who are devout followers of their own, and that worship none but the singular god in question. Which is what they did. They began to elevate their own individual champions to demonhood from then on, in order to not aid any of their competitor gods and bring more mortals into their individual worship. The Demon Primarchs. In the 41st millennium, many Chaos Space Marine champions have risen to the rank of Demon Prince, but most notably of these are the Demon Primarchs. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Space Marine Legions and the Horus Heresy. For those of you that are beginners and don't know what I'm referring to, the Cole's Notes version is that the Space Marine Primarchs that fought on the side of Horus during the Horus Heresy were pretty much all gifted with Demon Prince status after the Horus Heresy. This turned the superhuman, genetically designed super soldier of super soldiers that are the Primarchs to become mighty demon lords that constantly wage war against the mortal galaxy in the name of the ruinous powers. The Chaos Gods use the traitor Primarchs' hatred of the Emperor as a tool to influence them and once again give them the illusion that they are waging war under their own free will, when in fact they are simply aiding their master or masters at becoming more and more powerful and exercising greater influence upon the galaxy. I won't go into too much detail about each one, but let's briefly go over each one and their reasons for achieving apotheosis in order to demonstrate the requirements that makes a mortal worthy of becoming a demon prince. We can't begin a discussion about the Demon Primarchs without starting with Lorgar. Primarch of the Word-Bearers. He was the first of the Primarchs to fall to the ruinous powers. Once again, the Cole's Notes version is that he wrote the book on Emperor worship. Quite literally. actually. The ecclesiarchy preaches many of his teachings even in the 41st millennium, albeit being unaware that they are the previous teachings of a corrupted Primarch that still lives in the Eye of Terror as a demon lord. So, irony much? Long story short, during the Crusade, Lorgar began to subjugate each world his legion conquered into the belief that the Emperor was a god. The Emperor, not wanting to be worshipped as a god, punished Lorgar for this. Scorned by his father, Lorgar turned his attention to the gods that were worth worshipping, the ruinous powers of chaos. In fact, it is likely that he turned to chaos even before the Horus Heresy, and is probably the major reason half of the Space Marine legions even fell to chaos in the first place. It could be argued that the entire Horus Heresy is Lorgar's fault. Without getting into too much detail, you can already see why Lorgar was elevated to Demon Prince status by the undivided power of chaos, very similar to how Be'lakor was. The gods came to him through the ancient religion of his homeworld of Colchis, and once he had found gods worthy of his worship, the Imperial Creed didn't stand a chance. Angron, Primarch of the World Eaters, was gifted apotheosis by Khorne, the god of war and bloodshed. At the end of the Horus Heresy, all the librarians in Angron's legion turned against him because they sensed his slow descent into the worship of Khorne. They combined their psychic might into a collective psychic entity which they called the Communion. The Primarch's rage outweighed the psychic might of the librarians, and he managed to kill each one of them in turn. This gained Angron even more favor in the eyes of the Blood God, while at the same time removing all Psykers from the World Eater's Legion. Since Khorne despises magic, and loves aggression, this allowed the World Eaters to become the perfect Space Marine Legion to follow Khorne, and was enough for Khorne to gift their Primarch with both demonhood and a demon world in the Eye of Terror to call his own. Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children, was gifted apotheosis by Slaanesh, the god of pleasure and excess. Fulgrim was in fact possessed by a Keeper of Secrets, the greater demon of Slaanesh, at the early days of the Horus Heresy during the Istvan V Dropsite Massacre. The Primarch, however, was able to enslave the demon and take back possession of his body, but he had already been tainted by the Prince of Pleasure. His and his legion's constant goal of achieving perfection made them the perfect candidates for the legion dedicated to Slaanesh. Fulgrim ultimately sought demonhood and would betray his brother Perturabo in order to achieve apotheosis. And apotheosis he was granted, turning him into a gigantic serpentine creature that would rule over his own demon world within the Eye of Terror, gifted to him by his lord Slaanesh, similar to his brothers who have also ascended. Magnus the Red, Primarch of the Thousand Suns, was gifted apotheosis by Tzeentch, the god of fate and change. Magnus was a powerful psyker right from his birth, and was literally a giant red cyclops, even bigger physically than any of the other Primarchs, and a more powerful psyker than any of them, possibly second only to the Emperor in psychic might. This alone possibly shows the influence of chaos right from the get-go. Magnus's legion constantly suffered from mutation and disfigurement. These are the gifts Tzeentch usually bestows upon his followers. Sorcery is also one of Tzeentch's favorite things in the whole universe, so a legion of sorcerers is exactly what he was looking for, making the Thousand Suns, who craved knowledge and mastery of magic above all other things, the perfect candidates. The reality is that Magnus didn't purposely fall to chaos like the other Primarchs. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, and yes, I know I'm in for a shitstorm saying that, but it's my understanding he was loyal to the Emperor and attempted to warn the Emperor of the coming Siege of Terra. By doing so, he accidentally sabotaged the Emperor's work in the throne room, forcing the Emperor to order the Space Wolves to punish Magnus for his crimes against the Imperium. This forced Magnus to side with the Lord of Fate, who granted him elevation to demonhood. Magnus was also given dominion over a demon world known as the Planet of Sorcerers. There, he lords over his legions of marines and demons, creating greater and greater magics in the name of Tzeentch, the Lord of Sorcery. Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard, was gifted apotheosis by Nurgle, the god of disease and pestilence. His descent was brought on by his first captain Typhon. On their way to the Siege of Terra during the closing days of the heresy, Typhon purposely killed all the ship's navigators and led them into the warp. Once in the Immaterium, Nurgle unleashed a plethora of plagues and toxins upon the Death Guard and their Primarch. Eventually, the suffering was too great for the Primarch to handle, and so he offered his allegiance to the Lord of Disease in order to end the suffering him and his legion were experiencing. Nurgle granted relief from the pain of the illness, but without removing the illness. He simply gifted the legion with the ability to not just immunity to pain caused by the varying afflictions, but also a sense of pleasure from catching and spreading diseases in the name of Nurgle. Mortarion was made a demon prince of Nurgle shortly thereafter, and much like his brothers, Mortarion has lordship over a demon world in the Eye of Terror, known simply as the Plague Planet. Here, him and his legion delight in the various gifts Nurgle bestows upon them, granting them a perpetual state of undeath. Last, but certainly not least, I'd like to talk about Perturabo, Primarch of the Iron Warriors. He had a lust for knowledge of all kinds right from early childhood. He was renowned for his ability to assemble and disassemble complex machinery in but an instant. He was also very good at improving upon not only technologies, but also societies. He set to improve the worlds that his legion brought into the Imperium. He was a great diplomat that dreamed of creating the perfect society. Right from early childhood, Perturabo had frequent visions of the Eye of Terror. This might show that he was influenced by the dark powers right from the get-go. It was likely his thirst for knowledge that would be the cause of his fall. Once again, to make a long story short, I believe that Perturabo saw ascending to demonhood as a gateway to greater knowledge and power. In fact, without this desire to attain apotheosis, Fulgrim may not have even been able to reach demonhood, at least not as easily as he did. The Iron Warriors were bitter about how the Emperor had used them as a workhorse during the heresy to combat relentless foes rather than allowing them to build the perfect empire of iron. It was this, as well as Perturabo's disdain for Rogel Dorn of the Imperial Fists, that ultimately persuaded Perturabo to join Horus in the Siege of Terra, where he took great pleasure at penetrating the fortifications built by Dorn at the Emperor's command. Walls that he felt the Emperor should have asked him to build. Even though it was the Dark Gods that elevated him to Demon Prince status, he seems to not really care about the gods and their demons. Him and his legion only ally themselves with one of the ruinous powers when it suits their agenda. As we can see, what they all have in common is very similar to Be'lakor as well. All these demon princes I've listed won the favor of a single or all of the Chaos Gods in order to be granted power of demonhood and the lordship of a demon world within the Eye of Terror. Each has ownership of a realm that exists between the warp and material space that they may make use of as a launching point for waging war against the Imperium and the rest of the mortal galaxy. That's all we have time for today. I understand that this was a very brief look at the various important figures we mentioned in this video, and I may not have done them justice, but I just wanted to use them as brief examples of what it takes for a champion of chaos to attain apotheosis. I apologize if you were hoping for a video on gods, as I promised in the last video. That will be our topic for the next one, and I mean it this time. I just didn't want to leave out demon princes, since it was mentioned that I include them, so that our basic look at demons is complete. And for now, we'll move on to other things. If you like these videos, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. If you want to help support our content, please head to the description below and check out our Patreon campaign. For as little as $1 a video or even $1 a month, you can support everything we do here in Encounter Wargaming, and it gives you a whole bunch of extra perks. But if a regular contribution isn't your thing, then visit our Spreadshirt page, also linked in the description below, and purchase one of our awesome t-shirts. It gets you a cool t-shirt, and it helps us out with a few dollars to just keep things running around here. We're not monetized, guys, so please check out either one of those things if you want to help fuel what we do here, because we would rather show you less commercials and give you awesome t-shirts in exchange for your contributions. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at our next encounter.
Like a monkey in a rocket